Thanks for joining. My name is Melissa Denning and I work here at vegetablesWA, currently looking after labour. We know it's been a difficult year. 2020 was significantly difficult. Unfortunately to say, we do think 2021 is going to be almost the same, if not a little bit tougher. That's the current data and the information that we are receiving. This is part one of a set of videos which will hopefully give you some information about where potential labour sources can come from and what you might be able to do to minimise the impact. So part one is based on the seasonal worker program. I'll just share my screen now with everyone. So this is an option to be able to source labour. It's certainly not the only thing that's available, as I'll go through shortly, but it's part one of this series that we've got. So the current workforce gap, as we see, is backpacker numbers have dropped from 145,000 down to around 30,000 around Christmas time. So obviously we know that the backpackers is a significant number of workers in our workforce. It actually makes up about 90% of the workforce that we currently know of in Western Australia. So obviously there is going to be a large gap. We do know there are some Australians who have taken up the incentives in order to move to the regions. We believe in Western Australia there's been about 300 people take up the incentives, and for the federal scheme around 150. Obviously this is not going to be enough for the numbers that we do need, but it is a start and it is a key part, because we know that once Australians start in our industries, they then do continue along. The other thing that we have been successful in doing over the past month is bringing in the first 2 planes from Vanuatu. It is only 314 workers to start off with, but we are hoping that it is a very good start and that we'll be able to continue to bring in some workers under this scheme for the rest of 2021. We would normally have around 1,000 seasonal workers in WA each year. We do have to remember the seasonal worker program has been running for about 12 years. It's not a new program, and it has always been designed to fill the labour gap shortages that we have had. These are the shortages that we do think we're going to have for WA. This was the modelling that was done back in March 2020 by DPIRD, and we asked vegetablesWA and everyone else supplied industry data to DPIRD to try and figure out the actual requirements for labour over the periods of each month. Obviously there is some big variances there, but this is what we're kind of working off in order to look for our labour needs. So no one thing is going to be able to fix the labour shortage that we've got. Like I said, we don't think backpackers will be back until about 2022. The seasonal workers, there are a lot of states, obviously all the states are competing for seasonal workers, and there's also the requirements for quarantine and the cost with the health declaration. But we are working on making all sources available to everyone. One portion of help is through the Harvest Trail Office. Okay, so this is worked out of VAS and it is funded by the federal government and is provided to all of the growers in the southwest and north of Perth to the Dandaragan region. So the Rural Enterprises runs the Harvest Trail Office, and Bernice is the key contact on that phone number and email address listed on the slide. Apparently they do have around 800 workers on their database and about 95% are Australian. Those Australians are then obviously eligible for some of the incentives that are available, which could also then assist for them to be working into the horticulture and agriculture industries. A reminder that this is a free service, so it costs you absolutely nothing to talk to Bernice, to get your job advertised and to have another potential way to secure labour. Additionally, we've got the Harvest Trail Information Service. This is run by a company out of Mildura called Madec. So this is for any grower, okay, in WA, but it is also then specifically for the growers that are not covered under the Harvest Trail office sites. So we're talking Geraldton, Carnarvon, Kununurra, Broome, everywhere outside of the southwest or just north of Perth. Anyone can in fact advertise on the Harvest Trail Information Service, and it goes through to the harvesttrail.gov.au website. And that's a federal website that anyone can see. Again, this is funded by the federal government, so it's a free service for growers. Again, I encourage you to take advantage of this. So then moving on to the seasonal worker program, the key topic for this particular webinar. It may be the only viable option for 2021. Like we've mentioned, we don't believe that the backpackers will return in significant numbers until 2022. The main reasons behind this is the fact that one, the borders are still closed to backpackers. They actually can't enter on those visas currently. And two, their countries are actually in lockdown. Most of those people who travel under the working holidaymaker visa are currently not working and also have limited discretionary funds for travel. So it will take a time period for them to be able to earn enough money to be able to start returning and thinking about travelling even back to Australia. So that's why we're thinking that 2021 probably won't see much of a return of the backpackers. The seasonal worker program restart is supported both by the Commonwealth and the WA government. So there is a high level of support there for growers to access this scheme. And from what we understand, there's approximately 22,000 people that are registered to be keen to come to Australia under this program from the Pacific nations, from the 10 Pacific nations that are included. It is a complicated program. It is a federally run program with WA involvement. So it is complicated. There is no ways about it, but this is why you should do it. We know you want to look at the numbers. Okay, so looking at if you need 10 workers on your farm for your season, all right, whether it be plant picking, pruning, 10 workers is what you need to get you through the whole season. Most people would then actually have to recruit 30 backpackers in order to keep 10 consistently throughout the season. As we know, our backpackers, they don't normally stay the full season. And then by constantly changing staff, you then also need to constantly recruit and also train so that the new backpackers come on. So looking at our basic figure work, and that's all I'm working off. So we need to advertise, and then obviously you need to give trainings for each of the workers as well. So there's kind of our figures. There's about 2 days of training at about $100 now, which is the cost of your supervisor or manager. So with the seasonal worker program, you will keep them for the entire period of your contract, whether that's 6 or 9 months. The seasonal workers can stay in Australia up to 9 months each year. So again, you have to advertise. It's the same with backpackers. You must advertise for Australians first, and then if there's none available, seasonal workers can be your option. We do allow extra time for training of the seasonal workers, mainly because that can potentially be a language barrier, and also because these could be crops that they've never seen before. I'm thinking specifically here of our friends in the vineyards. There are no vineyards in Vanuatu or Timor-Leste or Papua New Guinea. So some of these crops they've never actually seen before and do need some extra training to be able to complete the work, obviously productively as the grower needs. So by allowing some extra work, by allowing some extra training, you can actually get the workers to where they need to be, especially for piece rates. And then the employer does also pay the first $300 of the flight costs of all workers. That's the first year. My apologies. That's the first year. Those are the costs involved. For the second year, generally around 80% of the workers do return. So again, you have to advertise, but you've got a lower training cost because you're only actually now training 2 out of the 10 because the 8 are returning from last year. So they're already walking onto the farm pre-trained from last year. And again, you do need to pay for the first $300 of the flight costs as well. So looking at your figures, your backpackers, you're looking at $51,000 for each year because you're constantly recruiting and constantly training year after year because you're getting new people. You might get the odd backpacker return, but it is unusual. With the seasonal workers, there is a cost for the first year, and then of course the second and third and beyond, the cost will get lower because you've got the return workers coming back. The seasonal worker program is a long-term project. The first year is a lot about learning. The workers are learning about the jobs, you're learning about the workers, and the workers are also learning about Australia. So we do say the benefit does come in the second year. When the worker actually does return for the second year, they're fully trained, they hop off the plane, go straight through to the farm and start working straight away. And often we've had that. I've heard reports that literally the workers have arrived in the morning before COVID and quarantine, hit the farm in the afternoon and gone straight through the pack shed. So again, the figures that people often use is the labour cost divided by hectare. Okay. Now, everyone's farm is slightly different, but that's the benchmarking figure that we generally use. By lowering those costs, the retraining, the labour costs and the recruitment costs, obviously it's going to make that figure a lot better. The savings for the first year was approximately $7,000, and after that it did get down to about $29,000 in saving, because you're only recruiting once at the start of your season. There's no need to continually recruit throughout the year. You have then a stable workforce. So the nuts and bolts of the seasonal worker program. It's managed by the federal government through the Department of Education, Skills and Employment. There is a lot of red tape. There is a lot of bureaucracy involved. In WA, the eligible businesses include horticulture, agriculture, aquaculture, cane, cotton and accommodation. So accommodation, we do mean hotels, but they must have rooms. It's not just cafes. So to be an eligible approved employer, you do have to be working under the Federal Modern Award and be a PTY LTD. Those employers who are based under the state award system are not eligible to apply for this program. The process does take approximately 9 months to become approved in the first instance, and you do need to provide them with a lot of documentation, financial documentation, bank statements, policies, procedures, induction processes, things along those sorts of lines, including a welfare plan for the workers and also accommodation is later. But there is a lot of paperwork involved in the first instance, but that is a one-off process. Once you were approved, you were granted a deed then for 5 years. Each time you're then looking to recruit workers, so before the start of your season, this process generally takes around 2 months. So you put in your application designating which country you'd like to go to, the number of workers you'd like to have, where they'll be living, what their contract will be like, and what the worker welfare process will be for those particular workers. So that process does take around 2 months in order to get those processes through from the time that you apply through to when the workers land in Australia. It is complicated, but it is a process that can be done because obviously we do have growers who have gone through the process. However, during COVID, basically the Department of Employment had said that they're unlikely to be able to approve new applications during 2021, during the processes that they're going through in redeploying workers and ensuring the workers are looked after that are currently here in Australia. And as we just noted before, generally it's around a 9-month approval process. So in order to get workers in for 2021, the only option will be is to go through an approved labour hire company who can access the workers. Basically, the labour hire companies will arrange the recruitment process, the accommodation, the transport and the welfare of the workers. They will also generally assist with setting up bank accounts, tax file numbers, and help to train the workers as well. vegetablesWA does have a list of labour hire companies that do operate in Western Australia. The labour hire companies listed on this are all approved and do work to a high level. Please be aware that not all labour hire companies are approved. It is necessary to make sure that they can actually recruit workers under the seasonal worker program in order to be able to get these workers in. COVID obviously has created some additional extra items. Number one, obviously, quarantine. Workers do need to quarantine when they come into Perth. We have received dispensations that the workers can now quarantine in Perth, and that is a cost of $2,500 per worker payable by the employer. Okay, there is no facility to be able to charge these costs onto the worker. It is the employer that does need to pay these costs. Currently, the only way to get flights, or to get seasonal workers rather, to WA is through a charter flight. There are flights planned to come into the eastern states, but that would mean that the workers need to quarantine there, and those states are not really on board with quarantining those workers there and then allowing them to move across to other states. So we are looking at using charter flights in order to get workers direct into Western Australia. The 2 flights that we have brought in so far, the costs have been reasonable, and the worker has paid for the majority of the costs, or the worker will pay when it's deducted through their wages. So that has been worked out quite well. If one of the charter costs is excessive, then there is the expectation that the worker pays a set amount and the employer does need to cover the rest. So that is something that does need to be thought about in the process. It does depend on the charter prices that we do get from the airlines, but we can't give those details obviously until the flights are arranged. We are hoping to be able to set a schedule for the 2021 so that we can give some certainty to our growers, so that we can actually plan to have workers in at a set time based on the dates of the charter from the countries that they're coming from. So far, we are looking at trying to schedule another 10 flights into Western Australia for 2021 based on the key timings of the peak industries. We're talking vineyards, avocados, strawberries, citrus, apples, and other industries that do require a significant number of workers. I do have a couple of grower testimonials that are attached to this site. I will leave for you guys to click on those to have a look, by all means. They obviously are quite good ones. They're from a citrus company and also a hospitality company. I think one's in Queensland and one's in Western Australia. I do encourage you to have a look at them without a doubt. The program does work. We do know that growers that have used the seasonal workers no longer look towards the backpackers. They do prefer to return to the seasonal workers to be able to have a set, stable workforce. You know the date they're arriving, you know the date they're departing. It's highly unusual that they take extra days off during their time. They do show up to work every day. They can only work for you based on their visa, so they can't just up and leave in the middle of the night. And they actually want to be here. Most of the workers have a plan. They want to educate their children, or they want to build a house. They also understand that earning $25 per hour in Australia is an awful lot more than what they can earn in their home country. And those are the key issues that are differences between the seasonal workers and often our backpackers who are here for a holiday as a main course and are simply doing farm work for a bit extra and to be able to extend their visa. These workers are here on a work visa and are really looking to earn as much as they can whilst they're here. It's also one of the key differences is these workers do like the piece rates, because they do know that they can earn more than the award wage on the piece rates because their productivity is quite high. The information that I gathered last year showed that seasonal workers are approximately 20% more productive than backpackers in their first year, and again, another 30% more productive once they return. That's the nutshell of the seasonal worker program for 2021. It is slightly different to how it operates normally. However, I can certainly assist with answering specific questions for your farm. There are differences, and we can certainly look to help to facilitate. The seasonal worker program is available to anyone in the state, so long as you're an approved employer or are going through an approved labour hire company, which obviously we can assist with facilitating for you. I would encourage you to get in touch with me or contact one of the labour hire companies that is on our list. If you want to have a look at our website under labour on vegetablesWA.com.au, there's also quite a lot of information there as well. Part 2 will probably be coming out in the next few days, and that will be based on the Pacific Labour Scheme, which is the longer version, the 3-year version of this very similar visa, but it is only for certain industries. So it may be applicable for you, it may not be. I look forward to talking to you again. Thank you.